For more than a fortnight, some of the topmost universities in the United States of America have been gripped by protests and clashes on campus. The anti-war and pro-peace students have been protesting against the Israeli onslaught on Gaza and have been demanding for an immediate ceasefire. A key demand of the anti-war and pro-peace students is that their institutions must financially divest from Israel and companies that profit from the war. The campus protests have now spread to nearly 140 colleges in at least 45 states and also at least 6 other nations outside of the United States, including France, Australia, the United Kingdom and Canada. More than 2,000 anti-war and pro-peace protesters have been arrested nationwide by the police in the past fortnight in a very brutal police crackdown at several campuses. Our next report gets more details.
Free! Free Palestine!
Free Palestine! Palestine will be free!
U.S. college campuses have been rocked by the most sweeping and prolonged unrest since the anti-Vietnam War protests of the 1960s and 70s. From coast to coast, a wave of anger and defiance is sweeping across the campuses of top U.S. colleges. A movement that began on the 17th of April with only 70 students at Columbia University in New York City has gone from strength to strength despite arrests and threats of suspension. Students are furious over the Israel-Hamas war and the ensuing humanitarian crisis in the besieged Palestinian territory of Gaza. More than 34,500 Palestinians, mostly women and children, have been killed in Gaza by Israeli forces since the beginning of the Israel-Hamas war on the 7th of October last year. Columbia University, which is at the heart of the movement, was flooded by police in riot gear on the 30th of April in order to evict Hamilton Hall, occupied by the anti-war students.
Occupation no more!
Hamilton Hall, which has a long and illustrious history of student protests, was renamed Hind Hall by the occupying students early on Tuesday in honor of 6-year-old Hind Rajab, who was killed alongside her family by Israeli forces in Gaza on January 29 this year. Helmeted police were seen climbing into Hamilton Hall via a second-floor window they reached using a ladder truck, before leading handcuffed students out of the building into police vans. But much worse was in store for the students of the University of California in Los Angeles early on Wednesday morning. A masked pro-Israeli group arrived on campus, tried to dismantle the camp on Dixon Plaza. And then, when the anti-war campers rallied to defend their makeshift space, they were assaulted. The counter-demonstrators threw fireworks, tear gas, water bottles, and attacked the campers with bats. Making matters worse was the limited and delayed police intervention, which the Office of California's governor criticized and deemed unacceptable. Students on the front line of the protests narrated harrowing ordeal of being arrested and detained by the police early Thursday.
After attack by Zionists and Proud Boy white nationalists yesterday, we had 25 hospitalizations because our people had their heads split open by paddlets and wooden and stumps that were thrown at us. And not a single person who perpetrated these attacks was arrested. Not a single one. And the police response wasn't until 2 hours later. For us, they've always been surrounding us. They've always been spying on us from the building. And they came with the dispersal orders and, in the middle of the night.
The U.S. President, Joe Biden, who had remained tight-lipped till the UCLA Gaza protest camp was cleared, broke his virtual silence, saying the United States was not authoritarian, but insisted that order must prevail.
We've all seen images, and they put to the test 2 fundamental American principles. The first is the right to free speech and for people to peacefully assemble and make their voices heard. The second is the rule of law. Both must be upheld. We are not an authoritarian nation where we silence people or squash dissent. The American people are heard. In fact, peaceful protest is in the best tradition of how Americans respond to consequential issues.
Extending a ray of hope, a handful of institutions, including Northwestern, Brown, the University of Minnesota, and the University of Vermont, have reached agreements with the protesting students over divestment matters.
Bombed!
Arrests, though, have taken place in other universities, including Yale, Dartmouth, University of Texas, etc. But will they deter the students who have felt the moral impetus to act against the violence being perpetrated in Gaza? Look at it any which way. History is in the making, and students are not merely witnessing it, but being an active participant.